We should record another video.
Yeah, Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Alex. You got, I don't know where because my screen is different. You got Josh, and you got Xapo here.
I'm on the
Josh.
bottom. Xapo's on the right side if you're looking at the screen, and you're on the left, top left. It's like
Yeah,
that.
so you got we're the 3D artist, but Josh does different stuff. He does like more
I do
VFX.
3D.
Yeah, you do 3D, but you do like more like stuff or
Yeah, it
dropping
is
like
a bit
more,
different. It's
right?
kind of funny too.
So
We're not gonna get. I was thinking about this earlier. We're not gonna get guests that are in my realm of what I do. I feel like there's gonna be a lot
why
less
not?
of that because I don't know a lot of them. Besides, unless we
Yeah,
get
Um,
the
maybe
one
you
dude,
should
but
try
that's it.
doing Maze Shady next. What?
Ooh, Mace is a good one because he's also has like
I don't know him, so
I
you're gonna have
think I
to.
remember one of his previous client was Netflix India, like
Ooh,
Netflix, which is good. I still remember that, but I don't really see that, But he does work on like client projects.
I'm gonna
I do
glitch.
remember I was playing. I remember I was playing Counter Strike with him, and then Shady was working on something, right? And then he was like DMing Shady. He's like, fuck client work. Come and see us. Let's go play some comp. Especially when like I was working on a project and then he messaged me on Steam. He was like, Alex, what are you doing? Come play CS. No, I'm working. He's like, fuck working. Come play CS. And by the
Yeah,
way, he's a professional motion designer and he's like, no, fuck working. Fuck
yeah.
your passion. Play
I
CS.
Yeah.
I love having homies that do that. So I have to
Yeah,
bleep
yeah,
the
bro.
name, but like eventually, I don't want to pressure them. That's why. But eventually,
Yeah.
I want to have because he does do something similar that I do, and I
Yeah,
also want to
man,
get just
his recent videos are just like so cinematic, the
oh yeah.
cinematography and the
He actually
edits.
gave me the plugin that he uses for all his environment stuff.
He
It's
gave
called
it to me.
a.
He gave it to me as well. He
It's very helpful.
censor it. One. Yeah, whatever. So
Yeah, and then and that and
yeah.
then that's like a whole different level. Again, I'm bleeping that, but that's a whole different level in terms of someone to ask because just
Yeah, but
where he is at life, it's kind of hard.
he was like, my account got hacked. Comes back a few months later, guys. Let me show you what I've been doing while I was gone, and he just posts bangers. I'm like,
Bang.
what? It just makes you feel like, the kind of vendors he has is like the kind of things you look at his
Mhm.
vendors, and it's like, damn, I gotta start working, bro. It's just like I feel bad, like I'm not
Yeah.
doing anything. Right now, I'm working on some stuff, so
Does
I'm
that
really
ever?
pretty glad that.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
But go on.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
does that make you think? Um, so do you guys work every day? Like, do you guys make something every day? Because I'm at that point where I have been like, I'm always on my computer, I'm always making something. Do you think taking that break like he did is like
Yeah, I
something
mean,
It's
necessary for
healthy. It
an
does
artist?
help.
it's healthy.
So,
Yeah, it does help.
I think this is a good topic, like taking breaks. So, the thing is that with you know, you have the grind and you're in the zone whenever you work. But if you don't take breaks, I feel like you won't get better at like improving at what you do. So, for me, like let's say when I went to if I let's say I went to Switzerland or in Hungary as well, taking a break and just not thinking about anything else, it does help. Then when you actually get back to making stuff, you get a bit more like inspiration, more ideas, and you're much more refreshed. It's kind of like when you work on a project and you take a step back for like a few hours and you come back and you look at your project or whatever it is, you render your animation, and it looks like completely different to you, right? Because you're always judging it and when you're working in it, but you don't view it as
Mm.
like how other people would see it. Like if I look at my old work from months or years ago, and it feels completely different compared to how I used to view it when I was working on it.
Talking about like taking breaks, I think that's really necessary. I just want to share a story with you guys.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah,
So yeah, when COVID hit, so I think you know or not. So I'm currently pursuing computer science.
I think you've told.
Uh,
I don't think you've told
I
me this.
didn't
I
know
don't.
that.
Uh,
yeah, so I'm currently like pursuing computer science. My course is computer science.
All right.
So I started editing when after I enrolled in engineering, like the computer science course. So I was just trying out stuff. I was making edits and I had already started my page. But there was a time like when I felt like because my other friends were all into like programming and all, I was like, I think I should give it a try.
Mm.
And because I was pursuing the same like course, it was like I was meant to do it, so I just gave it a try. But and for 6 months, my page was like fully dead, no posts, no story shares, no commenting and all. It was like dead silent desert. And so I tried coding and programming for like 6 months, and I eventually figured out that this is not for me. And so I picked up editing once again. I got into motion graphics and 3D. So
Hell
you
yeah.
just
And
have to try new stuff and see what works for you. I
yeah,
think that's
Yeah,
the
cause
point of
I
taking a break.
sorry, I think I mean I know why the other guy did it was because he was
Hmm.
building his portfolio for school because he was gonna go to uni and all that. So he was like, I'm gonna take this break and learn. Which then I guess like we just talked about taking breaks, and I obviously think taking breaks is good. I usually take like I can't take like a year off. That's not really my
no, I think
thing.
that's a bit too much. That's
Even a
basically
even
not.
a month to me is like a lot. Like a week maybe. Like I'll a week of me just playing games and like not talking. I mean that's just me personally, but
I think I'm the same. I mean, for a month, I feel like for me at least, it's a bit too long because it goes to my mind. It's like, bro, you aren't working on anything.
yeah,
You're going to, lose your touch. But
Yeah,
I'm
he's back.
back.
you're back
I have
now.
that
Yeah.
potato Wi-Fi. Yes.
um, but I basically wanted to mention that because I guess now my next topic would basically be like not just taking a break, but like taking a year off social media to work on your
Mm-hmm.
art and to get better at it. Because I did do that. I think like I like left. I spent a year just learning different styles and like learning how to do a lot more Blender stuff, and I definitely got way better than where I was because I think the last that I made before that year break was that My Hero Academia 3D animation that I did. And then I left, came back, and then I was starting to post like I don't know, like different styles with like art filters applied and more toon
Mm.
shaded variants, NPR renderings and all that. But like do you think like the idea of just not even necessarily taking a year break of doing nothing, but like taking a year break to actually develop your skills is also like a really good idea? Or do you think that feedback of posting is also good while you're doing that learning process?
Yeah. I don't. I don't say like you don't have to really post. I mean, it's important for portfolio purposes, but it doesn't really take into like it's not really taking into account in terms of like improvement to an extent because if posting it also means there'll be people who will actually give you feedback and listening to what others has to say because you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to restrict yourself to just like not posting and just making art because you wanna it's also important to hear what others have to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if you were to take a break, train yourself, and then post it, that works fine as well. But it's someone has to see it, to give, to so you can see
Yeah.
if you're on the right track or not, and all of that stuff.
Mm.
Especially if you're gonna work in it. But if you're gonna get like a job, it's pretty important to post your stuff online
Yeah.
or get clients. Because for me, like the clients that I get right now, the only reason I have them is because they've seen my work and even the latest one, some of them will be like, "Yo, I like this thing that you did. Can you make something like this, but for
Like
my
us, yeah.
my brand?" Yeah, and stuff like that. So it's always important. But for
I
like yeah,
sorry. I was gonna say I always think the just feedback in general is definitely the important part. You can't I'm
yeah,
agreeing
Mm-hmm.
with you. You just can't take that year break not showing anybody your work because then you're in an echo chamber of thinking what looks good.
Yeah.
But
exactly,
then,
exactly.
but yeah,
Because
even when I took my year break, I was still I didn't post anything, but I was sending it to people that like I had
yeah.
respected in 3D to be like, hey, like where do you think I should go with this? They're like, do this. I remember I was asking people who don't do like art in like a similar capacity. So, all right, I guess this might go off topic because I do want to hear Zappo's opinion about the break thing, but um, people who don't do art, do you respect their opinions less or more?
Mm,
Like
I mean,
they
see,
only watch movies,
uh,
you know? They don't
yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
they don't do it.
So
I
art
will.
is very subjective, so everyone has their own opinion.
Yeah.
Mm.
So even if you like make an edit and show it to someone else like who is not into editing, they will still have some advices or feedback to give you, even though they don't know anything about editing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious about that because I think it might just be a me thing. I tend not to ask
Yeah.
people who don't do art their opinions.
No, for me, it's a mix of both. I would
Mhm.
say that I would prefer the artist opinion, especially let's say if I'm doing like maybe a title sequence like I did before. I'll ask someone, preferably ask someone who does this kind of thing. But I'll also have like a normal person's opinion, so they can see if they find it attractive for them as someone
Mhm.
who doesn't do it, like an audience. Like for example, there'll be like the person, the critic who watches a movie, and then just a normal dude who just likes watch movies, who just
Yeah.
watches them
Yeah.
just as a casual thing. So having both of them,
Sometimes the advices are like really helpful.
Of what?
so,
Sorry, you kind of cut out a little bit. What did you say, Zap?
Sometimes the advices are like helpful, like
yeah,
even if it comes from a non-editing person.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't always have to listen to the artist as well. If sometimes the artist who gives you advice could be wrong. You can to an extent you can also see. Let's say if I watch your movie, like, watch your my work. Um, I can look at my work as an artist, and sometimes I would like to see my work as like a normal audience member, right? Uh, I'll look at someone will look at my work as like the Air Jordan one. Some artists or 3D artists will look at it and will be like, "This looks really cool," but from a normal audience like member, they'll be like, it's a bit too fast. I don't know what's going on. Um, the thing is with artists is that they are not just interested of how it looks, but also like the technical aspects of it, like how it's done. While the
Yeah.
audience member just like, okay, is
Like
there? It looks cool,
what
but
did I
what's the
get
meaning
from this?
behind it?
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So when I did the thing for New York, there are people who were like, "This looks really cool." People who say this are like the ones who do like the art stuff.
Yeah.
Looks really cool. Congratulations, because they know how big it is. To get like in New York, get something like that in New York or whatever. But then you have the normal audience is like, congratulations, this looks cool, but why is it this way? And I
Yeah.
was like looking at it like, yeah, why is it this way? It doesn't make any sense. It's just abstract. If I showed you my favorite motion designer, because he does a lot of abstract stuff, um, other artists would be like, wow, he's very good. He's like one top tier. But if I show this to someone like maybe my mom or my dad or something, they'll be like, what is this? I don't know what this means. And it's like, it doesn't have a meaning. It just looks cool. And they might maybe not find any like satisfaction or anything pleasing about that. So it really depends. And I guess having feedback from both can it's helpful. But
Yeah. No,
so
I
that's
get
that's
that.
how I see it in terms of
Mm.
feedback.
Yeah, I
But
don't really
yeah,
have
but how
a
do you like if you for you, right? Like do you see it the same way, or do you just mostly
I
rely to artists?
I mostly rely to artists because I'm at a stage where I'm still trying to develop the art side and less the audience reaction side, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like I don't think I'm like perfect at 3D, so I rely
Yeah.
more
No one
on
is.
like trying to perfect that aspect to where I can hear artists say it's good, and then from there, once I get the okay from that, it's then sort of branching out into other forms of. I think I'm getting better now to where I can stop relying too heavily on an artist's opinion, even though I'll still get it. But yeah, I tend not to listen to like people who don't do art because a lot of times, yeah, sometimes their opinions are good, but then sometimes it's like it's too green. Like I don't know what that
Yeah,
means. Like I don't.
sometimes it's not really necessary, or
It's
like
Mhm.
doesn't
it's like
really make
a
sense.
nitpick that like makes 0 sense. And then I'm like, I don't really know what you mean by that. And then I just kind of you ignore it, but then it also like kind of adds a bit of distrust in terms of me asking other people for advice, even though it could be good. I'm just like the like percentage of like someone who's going to give me good advice to like just complete bullshit. I'm like I rather go for an artist because at least I know the percentage there is leaned
Mhm.
more towards good advice.
Yeah,
And that's just
yeah,
me,
yeah,
but like
Yeah,
again, like
yeah,
that's whatever.
yeah.
Besides the point.
Talking of
yeah.
feedbacks, like whenever I'm working on a project, I'm like completely in Alex DM, like asking him stuff
I've actually,
like how you get this, how you did that.
I've straight up have been only in Alex's DM. Actually, mostly in terms of like asking stuff, because like I know he'll talk shit about it, and I love that. No one will talk shit about my edit. Like I'll hear like it's good, and then like some people will
I
be like maybe like oh add a little bit of fog, and then I don't fully understand it. But then Alex will give me like a fucking how-to guide on like
yeah, yeah.
sometimes.
So I think okay, there is actually
Yeah,
a
man.
reason
These
why
like Alex is so patient.
Oh
Like
yeah, he's way too
I just
patient.
have to mention this.
I
He's so patient,
to
like me and Josh both.
Yeah,
yeah,
I couldn't.
to be honest, it's just that I sometimes I mean I have time to message. I mean it's more just I don't I pretty much have like a lot of free time apart from projects. When doing projects, I use a lot of my time to work on that. But
Yeah,
uh,
especially
I
recently.
always
You
use my
both have
time
been
to
busy.
like
Yeah.
message. Even especially like sometimes I'll be at the bed, trying to sleep. I can't sleep, so I'm on my phone, and I'm really bored. But then when someone messages me, it's like, "How do I do this?" So I'm like, "I'm gonna give you a whole essay or something like that." But basically, the reason why I would be a bit, I used to be a bit too nice, you know, and I saw
Well,
like there are consequences to doing this. Now, if you're too nice, I mean, you make the other person feel good, but
yeah, but
there
there
some
are
people,
people out there, man. It fucking sucks. I know what you're about to say too, because it's crazy. Like there's if it's like someone like I think me or Xapo who's in a skill range where it's we are not gonna ask you a fuckload of questions. But if you start
yeah,
getting an artist where they're new and they start relying on you for everything,
mhm,
then that's sort of the problem. And then that's sort of the too
yeah.
niceness I think starts to
So
come in.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's the reason why I'll be the other reason see is like for example I'll see someone and they're like, oh, how do you like my work? And I'm like, yeah, it looks good. But then let's say they keep posting like similar arts, um, but there's no like sense of improvement. And if they keep coming back to me and I'll say like, oh, what do you think? Then I start giving feedback, right?
Yeah.
And there is a point where some of these people that would message me, they don't really listen to what I said, and I'll DM them something. I'll be like, yeah, why didn't you do this thing? And if they don't have like a valid reason, it's like, oh, I just think it looked cool, and I'm like, and I'll be like up to their face, and like, I'm like, it just doesn't look any different or something like that or anything like that. Um, but because if you're too nice and you'd be like, yeah, okay, I mean, it's your project, do whatever. And it's a bit annoying to see people that's not getting like like people who are asking for feedback and they want to get better and they want to do these things or get these kind of opportunities, but they don't really like listen. Like I'll say like, oh, I think you should make this a bit edit this a bit slower because it's a bit too fast. This text is a bit, it's a bit ugly or whatever. An example of this that made me a bit more harsh was like my you gotta censor this by the from an old company that I worked with, right? He showed me this animation that he hired a studio to do, and the animation was
Wait, do
like
you
it
want me to
was
censor this whole story or just the part with the
just the
name?
part where it said like
Okay.
and then
I
the old
will I
company
will
just censor that
okay.
because this maybe someone would know what I'm talking about,
Also, yeah, Zappa,
but
let me know if you ever need that, by the way.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay.
yeah, we'll actually we have a client we could talk about like right after.
Okay, just try
Yeah,
not to mention the name.
we'll have a
Try
separate rank session about that.
try not
Yeah.
to mention the name too often because then
No,
that
no,
just
no,
means I
no,
have
no.
to like bleep it out. Mention it like once and then go off on the topic, but like I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
have to bleep
Yeah,
So
names too many
we'll
times.
come on that
yeah, so
topic.
before we get to that, I'll talk about these old
Yeah, go
companies. So
for it.
we had an animation, right? And he asked me like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "There are so many notes, right? Like the lines are cheesy and everything like that." he didn't listen, right? And then he said like he said he told me like, I want you to give me feedback on this episode, right? And I put I had like a bunch of notes and not a bunch of points, right? The reason he asked me for feedback, by the way, at the time I was the right, so he asked me for feedback because he knew that I came from the anime community basically, right? And he wanted me to like he was like, you come from the community that basically hates uh sense, please.
Okay.
So he was like, yeah, so do that. And I said, yeah, this is too cheesy. This is too much. This doesn't make any sense. Why are you making fun of this thing? This joke is too old. This doesn't make sense. There's a weird cut here. This animation is so jank. On sync sound, all of that kind of stuff. On the second episode, he didn't listen to anything that I said, and he showed it to me, and he's like, "What do you think of the second episode?" I'm like, "It's like the same as the first, if not worse." I just said that to him straight up, and he was like, "But bro, like, I paid like I wouldn't say the company, but this studio made this animation before. It's good. What you mean?" I'm like, "If you say so, I mean, hey, don't say that I told you so." And then what happens? The episode gets released. There's even more backlash than there was before. I'm like,
What
what happened to
can
that?
I
The project got canceled, and then,
we're gonna bleep the name. What's the show?
it was the I'm not maybe Xapo knows. It's called. It was like a animated, basically, and yeah, exactly.
Bro, who's gonna watch? Like, bro,
Yeah,
come
and
on.
it was a massive fail because of that project. Literally, yeah, just cut it out. That's
Okay.
just for you both to know. But those, up until this point, that's
We're-
the cut.
we're back.
That's the cut. Right. So, so this project that Xapo and me worked on, a few months ago, I got canceled. I'll mention it once. You censor it.
Yes,
It's called.
don't worry.
They were called.
There's a
Right.
lot of censoring in this episode. I'm just letting you know. There was
Yeah, yeah.
there was a lot
So-
the last episode that I edited, but this one's gonna be
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So, yeah.
Dude, we were
we
making
were-
jokes about them in the DM, and
Yeah. Yo, so basically, even my
the
director was
supreme.
like, yeah, yeah. So even my director was like, I remember we were in the video call. I think Zappa was there as well, and he was like, I don't know what the fuck they. He said this. I don't know what the fuck they want. They don't know what they want, and it's like, it was really annoying. So basically, how it started was, we were supposed to make a set of commercials, and the amount wasn't that much, but it wasn't like one commercial. It was like, set, and I was supposed to do like three. Zappa was originally supposed to do two of them, and that was what made the pay good. But we were supposed to be given the brief and all the details, like three, like pretty much like a few days afterward, a couple days. But we were given the details 3 weeks late, right after we already started doing the project. We had no idea what we were doing. They sent us the brief, the fonts, the color palette that late,
Yeah.
and it all became a mess. By the way, up until the end of the project, they're still sending us stuff that we were supposed to get earlier, right? And they kept giving us so many changes. We had no idea what we were making. Um, we and by the way, we were supposed to have more artists on this, but because they kept delaying it, we had this one. He's really good, by the way. He just left. He just straight up was like, "Nah, man, we were supposed to do it earlier. I'm leaving.
Didn't
I'm
he have?
dipping."
Wasn't he like?
Yeah, he had, and he was able to work, but he didn't end up like working on it
Yeah, he was like,
because
"Fuck that."
they didn't give us any details. And by the way, I was really hoping that he would hop on because he was like he's a really good artist. He worked with me on the tech event that I did with the LED screen stuff I did before. But he was like they don't want to provide models or anything. By the way, I modeled a lot of the like exterior because they didn't want to provide the models. yet they wanted us to make the commercials, right? Now here's where it gets insane, right? Is where the director tells us like this is their notes. They want it to be Samsung quality kind of level, like this high tier quality, for this budget, this budget, right? And
We
then
want
they and then
this
they
for this. All right, guys,
yeah,
come on.
exactly. Exactly. And by the way, those commercials, you don't have to censor Samsung, but
Yeah, that's
those like
fine.
Samsung kind of commercials, like those really good ones, they're made by teams, right? They're made by studios, right? And they maybe take months, right? You're asking us to make maybe three commercials or something like that
Within a
under two
month.
months
Within a month.
with this
Yeah,
like
two
small
months.
budget, right? And it's like I told him like this is like unfair, right? And by the way, I already finished the first commercial. Xapo was pretty much done with his, but
Yeah, I was
they
done with the first. I was
yeah,
done rendering
you
the
were done
first.
with that as
Yeah.
well. But they didn't we didn't even get to even submit even the first one that I did, right?
Hmm.
So supposed to be like 7 or 9 commercials, and we didn't even end up with the supposed to be like at the end of the 2 months. It was supposed to be like 7 or 9 commercials, and we were supposed to be paid depending on how many we've done. But we didn't even get the first one through because they didn't know what they want and they wanted to keep changing. So before the project canceled, the client was like, "You caused the delay," which by the way they caused the delay and everything, and because of the bad quality, I got fired. I'm like, first of all, he didn't tell us what he wanted, right? And he's bashing us for being like making bad quality. We gave him what he wanted, and they're not like giving us any helpful feedback and not really explaining anything properly,
Yeah.
right? Like they're not, and they want like such a high quality of work, but they gave us like a small budget. Um. By the way, they didn't pay us, so they didn't pay any of us for the stuff that we did.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
the I'll talk about the composition and all of that stuff. So
Sick.
we he even complained about the delay, which was mainly caused by him because we spent all our time pretty much working, but they sent like the brief and all of that stuff, not even like full assets. They sent like parts of it, which is annoying, and they they delayed it by like 3 weeks. We were supposed to start way earlier, but they didn't want to send anything. We kept asking, and they just didn't respond. And then this is their project, and then they're blaming us, and all this stuff happened. So eventually, the project didn't go through, and I guess that was the first time I ever had like a really like just terrible failed project. Like it's just like nothing.
Zappo, is that the
All the
same for you? Is it like mutually the worst experience?
Yeah, I
it's one of the
mean,
worst for me.
they were bombarding like changes after changes, and those were not like the minor changes, they were the major ones, like completely like overhauling the script and all.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And we were already done with rendering the scenes, and which was
Yeah,
like
exactly. We
impossible for us to work. And I had to go on a like vacation for 10 days. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's fucked.
yeah. Fortunately, we were the director, the one who I work for, actually like let he helped he did he's good he's a good guy, so
mhm.
he did give us some sort of compensation. It's not what we promised, but it's all he can give because he's paying out of his pocket because
Yeah.
he knows that he's aware that this kind of field can be stressful with the terrible client because it's we're not dealing with just animating the stuff. We also have like the rendering and all this like software stuff
Oh, I
and
also
all
have
that.
I have a question too. Did they even give you a budget for render farms or no?
No.
No, they didn't really.
All
They
right, yeah,
didn't.
that's all right. So
So
that's even more fucked. All right.
when it comes to like vendor farms, he it's like he knows like he will ask the client if you want this to be done quicker, will you have to pay the client will have to pay us more just so we can vendor it quicker. Otherwise, you'll get it within this time. You
Yeah.
know, that's how it works. If there's any part of what they give us will be invested into the project. So whenever I charge a client, I'll take into account like assets, vendor farm stuff, depending on the month, subscription stuff. So it'll also I'll be taking into account For a business like my boss, it goes like, there's like, like people's salaries, paying the artist, outsourced or not, um, putting giving money to himself, which is also important for like, on personal expenses, and also putting money into the business. So you have to also balance all of that.
Yeah.
So we're just not asking just for the sake, but like if any case there's like render farms included and there's like a very short time, they would have to pay us because there's nothing we can do, but they would have to, pay to for us to render stuff faster. Because
Yeah,
we're not superhumans. We don't have NASA PCs. Uh, we so
Oh,
they have to like tell us about,
Mm-hmm.
that, that's why we all ask in advance, the deadline, the budget, so that will help us this figure out the scope of work, and then we can just straight up just work with that. And we'll also tell him, I'll like, for example, the client right now, I'll tell him in advance, like, this is the deadline. Since you don't want to give a deadline, since you asked me, this is the deadline I'll be working with. If you want it done quicker, you would have to pay more because I'll have to render out to the render farm. If you want more or an extended, version of this thing, you're gonna pay more.
mm,
Or if you want it to be shorter or lesser, you don't have to pay that much. So it really like depends on like the client
yeah, it all
or the
varies.
project and stuff like that.
I
So
I have a question. I guess this is like kind of going on the same topic, but like a little variant. What would you um if you were on a podcast, obviously, if a client is watching this and they are looking for advice on how they should go about things, what is like the best way to sort of go about it? Like, what should they say to you? Like, what should they give you ahead of time? Like, what is like the fucking checklist of things they need to
Mm-hmm.
know before they start hiring
yeah, so
somebody? Like,
I
I
have a
want to know your
pretty
at least in an ideal way, and then also in
yeah,
like
yeah.
a realistic sort of like normal way. Yeah, I guess ideal way would be the best, right? Like whatever, wherever
Yeah.
you guys want to go about it. But I want to hear your
I
two
think
opinion
I
on that.
think uh, I think Xapo should go first because I have a pretty long answer for that one. It's pretty detailed. I mean, what would you ask? Like,
Yeah,
if
I
clients
mean,
want,
whenever you reach out to an artist, you should be clear about what you want, and you should be clear with the script. The like your vision should be clear, and how you want the final product to be, and you should be very clear about that. Also, one more thing that I usually ask when when clients reach out to me is if they have a brief. So before talking about the budget and all, I always ask them about the brief if they haven't, because before I tell them my charges, I need to see like what I have to work on and how many hours it is going to take. So this is that was it. The script
yeah,
and the idea should be clear,
Okay.
yeah,
and then rest of the stuff like mood board and storyboard, uh, we should make it clear that these things are not cannot change it after that, or is it gonna cost them extra money. These
yeah,
things should be made clear beforehand, so there are like not any consequences.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that sounds good to me.
for me, actually, have a document. I call it or maybe people call it the commission agreement form, basically showing all the terms before I start the project. And
The
for
freelancer Bible.
yeah, yeah, the freelancer Bible. Before you start, read this shit. So you know
Just
what.
send it to me, okay?
Yeah. So you need it? I can send it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the for me it's more like um be like, if you don't have a vision, at least tell me what your brand is. If you want us to do the creative idea deciding thing, you have to like be aware that, okay, you can try, I can help you decide or sort of do that for you. For example, let's say you want to make a commercial on, let's say you have a drink, right? And you don't know what to put in your advertisement, and I could say like, okay, I can help you with that. um Otherwise, if you have an idea, you tell it to me. You be a bit clear. It also helps if you have your own like presentation or something like that. uh but do understand that, the more references that you give and the more sort of concepts and proper briefs that you given details, color palettes, and also knowing what audience you're trying to target. That helps, and then it makes it easier. Also understand that like these at least for this industry, like the 3D one, this also goes for just generally art, but 3D one especially because we have like rendering and stuff. It takes time. Understand that we're not like freaking Superman or something. We can't just just
Yeah, like
just think in our minds and then we have like a render. It's just you know.
one
But
day, one day,
wait, one day,
And
maybe one day, maybe
one
to
day.
take our job. But like understand like it takes time and understand that these things will also they will depending on the kind of project you want they won't come cheap because we also spend a lot on like the programs and there's
Mhm.
also like render farms and all that kind of stuff. um some clients place like understand we're human. Don't We'll message you whenever we get something done. We'll always update you because you don't have to message us also during the weekends because I'm trying to like sleep. I'm trying to like take a rest, right? Uh, if you have a any big changes, understand that that's going to like cost because when we render something, it's like baked. It's just there. It's very hard to change. You have the EXR thing, but often it'll be clients will ask stuff like, "Can we replace the geometry? Can we replace the product? Can we change the background to this thing?" And sometimes we have to re-render it
Or
because of
can we
how.
make it vertical?
Oh
I
yeah! Oh
had
my
one
God!
client like that.
If you
Yeah.
if you want to have different resolutions and different formats and any of this kind of stuff, you should tell us right at the beginning. Because let's say if you want, let's say, oh, we're gonna make a short film, and you tell me, can we also make the short film 4 by 3? And it's like, why didn't you tell us this before?
Yeah,
If
and
there's
and
anything yeah,
Yeah, we
it,
also want
is
to put it on Instagram, so can you make it
yeah.
in the Reels
So
I was gonna
dimension?
say like if you're gonna have those changes too, at least be prepared that it's gonna be longer
Yeah.
too and more
yeah,
money.
I
Like if you're
had
gonna
I
come up
had
with
one
major
client
changes.
like that. So I just
yeah,
told him that this isn't possible and it's gonna look awful if I just crop the whole video.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it's like you tell us if you know what you want, tell us straight from the beginning, right? Just
Mm.
be aware that there are consequences if you make any big changes in the middle. And the other one is like don't be an asshole because I'm in charge of your project, right? So like
I will
if
fuck
you're
this thing
gonna
up right now if you want me
if you're gonna
to.
complain about maybe about delays and stuff like that, like send us everything on time and we'll get your project done on time, right? Don't blame us for any BS. You looked at my portfolio, and I will deliver whatever looks like what's on my portfolio, right? And I've delivered the same quality as what, or even better, was on what showed on my work, right? But that's because the clients that I've had during that time, they understood what they wanted, right? And it's one of the two. It's either you give me like a storyboard or a script or something to follow, or I'll take full creative control. Because if we do like a hybrid between or try change things around, it's going to make the project just look completely different to either what both of us were
Yeah, and,
hoping for.
and and
So
especially if it's a client that wants that their creative control the whole time, and
yeah,
then they don't know what they want and they're just awful at explaining, that's also just a no go
yeah,
into.
and this
Yeah, I
goes
mean, if you ever come across such clients, just ask them like a complete storyboard that they want,
Mm,
yeah
like
exactly
with all the minute details, all the like
yeah,
small details that they want, and
and
we'll make exactly like that.
yeah.
yeah, and if
And
you
there's
if
no
you don't
chance like of.
yeah, and if you don't have a storyboard or an idea, then we can help
Mhm.
to an extent, but just understand like But the other thing is that like the last thing is that if it is the NDA thing, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
If
yes.
you tell us from the beginning, like like are we allowed to short on our portfolio or do you want to keep this confidential and all of that stuff? And I don't mind either. Like if I want to be confidential, but if you can't tell us at the end of the project because that is a sign of screwing the artist over because they made this work. They want to show this work as as like as a sort of like like an archive showing that they did their work for this client, they did for that. If you don't want us to post it, you should tell us in advance. Uh, because this is taken into account because this also affects us, right? Like for future projects as well, you know. So the reason I get hired for the kind of like LED animation stuff is because I've done that before. So the people know. Otherwise, if you don't let me post it, uh, then at least tell us beforehand, so
Yeah.
we understand like okay, that, it's fine, but don't tell us anything. Like tell us about any NDA thing. Like don't tell us like at the end, or again censor the but thing is the why I made the agreement form, because they only gave me the he only gave me the NDA right at the end. I kept asking him at the beginning of the project, can I post it? Can I post it? It is like, let me ask them, let me ask them. He only the reason he didn't ask them is because he wanted to avoid the topic with the client of the NDA thing. And he did listen. I was like, why didn't you ask them before? It's because I didn't want to ask them. I'm like, why didn't you ask them? This is important, right? This is not like some small client. This is like a big client. They're like and they were like, like, but I don't, because I didn't, it, like, again, he tried to fuck me over. And by the way, it's still currently the worst client I work with. Not the brand that I'm working for, but the studio that hired me.
Yeah, not the
Uh,
brand itself. To be
no,
fair,
the brand itself is fine, but he didn't even want me to talk to the client. I'm like, why not? I mean, it does not help closing the barrier of miscommunication. You know what I mean? And he's like,
Mhm.
no. What's the point of me? What is the point? You're the one handling, responsible for the project, right? He's like, what's the point of me then? What is the point? You're
what
still
it?
in charge of the project. You're the director, right? And he's like, you mean? It's super annoying. It's like so they didn't want to provide the models. So I'm like, okay, I'll model it. And then I made it at least like 80-90% accurate to the real thing. And then they were like, why does it not look accurate? Well, maybe it's because you didn't want to give me the asset in the first place. You didn't want to give me references. And they're like, what do you do? It's like really like frustrating. And
Yeah,
by
that.
the way, it's just this is the reason why I have these like documents and stuff. And ever since then, all the clients in the future, even the bad ones, I ran into even less and less situations because I showed them this form. I'm like, read this. This is what happens. If you break any of these terms, I'm gone.
Is
You
this
can get your
something?
money back. I'm gone.
Is this something
Yeah,
that you wrote out yourself or you found?
I wrote out myself. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I was
and
gonna
Have
say,
you
like, is
have you
this like
posted it
something we
on your
could give in?
story?
I did, but I took it off because I kept changing it. But right now, whoever artists who are doing freelance, I actually give them the form. I just tell them, yeah, just here's the form, but just adjust it to what you want your terms to be. But some of the terms on this form you should use as well because this is important. And there's a lot of like artists that I know and who are from the editing community who needed that form
Mm,
because the last thing that I want for them is to get fucked over by clients because it happens a lot. It's a pretty it's sad, but it is like a normal thing for like clients to like really be annoying and fuck everyone over and stuff like that.
yeah. This is
They
also
I
kind of
expect them-
sorry. I wanted to mention a thing to artists watching. Um, we have this podcast, so obviously we're kind of a decent source for knowledge here in terms of like helping
decent.
you. I
Yeah,
say decent. I don't want to give us that much
we're
praise.
not like
We're
we're
not.
not like the biggest,
Yeah,
but
we're
we're
not.
Yeah,
We're
also
not
we have
complete
experience or
professionals.
pros.
anything. We have somewhat of an experience
Yeah,
working, you
and
know.
the thing is,
So
definitely rely on your friends. I'm lucky enough to have these two, and others that I can always ask for advice in the freelance kind of space. Like even like Alex having like a sheet written out for something like that just to get like terms, like get your terms straight is like a big like godsend to have. So like just make sure you're really like connecting with like friends and other editors in the
Yeah, yeah.
community. So then that way you learn more and you're also aware. A lot of times they'll refer you to clients. Also another thing, they'll warn you of other clients, which we have all
Yeah.
done in the past. Editors
Yeah,
talk.
yeah, yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
So also clients beware. We do
Oh.
talk. We do talk. All right. So like don't fucking try to think that it's just like a one-way avenue and we're just like shut-ins who like I mean we are pretty much shut-ins, but we have access to stuff like this, you know. So actually be aware and like try to implement like as much good faith into your company when doing these types of things, because
Company or-
we're gonna
yeah.
because artists themselves are gonna be the ones enforcing it on you if you aren't the ones doing it, because we do talk. So we'll be notified if you are a bad company, most likely. Or like a bad client. I will ask my friends. I'll be like, hey, have you worked with this? Is this bullshit?
One of the things I wanted to mention is that if a client thinks that this document of yours is like overkill, that's a red flag already.
Yeah.
Because like, he doesn't agree. He doesn't. Your client is like, what the hell is? I don't want to. I think this is a bit too much in there. If they want to change some points or something like that, that's fine. If they want to negotiate that happens. Well, that's normal. But if they want to, if they're like, I don't want to sign this or something like that, then by the way, that's like a red flag. Because this is
That's a huge red flag.
this
And
document that you'll have is basically gonna protect you from any bad thing that that could happen. So
and
and you can also
obviously let them
No.
be aware. Is this something that I don't want to make a promise, but is this something that like we could put in the description as like something that people could look at?
I'm not gonna put my form because that's sort of like
More
a
personal form, I guess.
it is a
So-
disclosed kind of thing. So I only show it with specific artists that I know about.
okay.
I don't
This
know.
this could make a really good like separate video. Like if you're like planning to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
one.
it could.
Oh yeah, we could just do it separately. I
Yeah,
think
you
that would be
could.
fine, and then just kind
You
of
can have
go
the
over stuff.
you can have
Yeah.
YouTube Shorts or something like that. Maybe, but
I'm not
yeah.
doing
Freelancer
that.
Bible.
I'm not doing that. The Freelancer Bible. That would actually be a good short title. You should do that, Alex.
Oh yeah, the freelancer Bible. T-pose with the rig, the
Trademark.
bones, like
T posed, and then that's the trademark symbol. It's just you T posed.
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Alright,
okay.
is there anything
this
else
is
you
a
guys
bit
want to talk
dark.
about? Oh.
Yeah,
go
wait,
for
sorry,
it.
the T-pose. This is a bit dark. I mean, I'm not sure how people are with. You know how you have like the thing behind, like the holy thing. It could be like the axis circle thingy. With the rotation, the transformation, the scale.
Yeah.
Oh my
Maybe that's a
god,
bit.
that Phineas and Verb thing that you sent me. I think you sent me
Yeah.
it. The guy who made Phineas and Ferb reacted to it, and he was like, "This guy's so talented," and he's like, "The voice is so spot on."
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'll come up with something more evil, like AIR. I don't know if you want to talk about AI. Maybe not.
No, we don't need to. We had a whole fucking. I think that was even the
Yeah,
last podcast we talked about that.
Yeah.
Wait, this is the fourth podcast, not the third episode. The second episode the first episode. Technically the first episode, but it's the second episode that we did have like a long convo about AI. I'd rather bring that up kind of sparingly. I don't want it to be like a thing that's.
I mean, for sure, just like hope it doesn't take our job. That's
If
fine.
it's if it's like 100% relevant, and like maybe every few episodes we talk about it, but I don't want it to be one of those things where like trash taste where they bring up fucking Arcane for like the 90th time and Joey still hasn't watched it. Like I don't know.
No,
like,
we don't have to mention it. To be honest, there's a bunch of people who've already mentioned it. Like,
it's,
doesn't even
it's
have
in
to.
depth. Everyone's talked about it. It's not one of those
Yeah.
things that like you.
Yeah.
It's mainly non-artists talking about it on podcasts, but besides the point.
including trash taste or we should maybe censor that as well.
Well, yeah, they talk about.
But
We don't have to censor them. That's fine. I think.
whatever. But yeah, So just make sure you have a form. I haven't gotten this kind of document yet, but it would help. Is also if you have like a scope of work document. This is basically showing like
Mm-hmm.
this is the area that you're going to work in, and anything beyond that. Let's say, for example, I'm responsible for making a 3D motion design commercial, and if you tell me outside, or maybe I'll also include like okay, basic sound design, editing, compositing. But if you tell me something like, okay, we also want you to do characters kind of stuff, and that basically breaks the scope of work document. Meaning you're breaking the contract because you're not you didn't sign up for this kind of thing, right? So if you want, you can also make that as well. There are channels that give your accounts and that give like freelance advice. This is not for just artists, but anyone who's doing just general freelance.
Do you have
And
any
some of this can even be applied to like small businesses.
Do you have any
Like scope of
recommendations
work.
on channels?
There is one
Yeah, I
account
mean, Chris
on
Doe has a lot of like tutorials on how to handle clients and all.
yeah.
Okay.
You
There is
can
one. He's
definitely check that out.
yeah. There is a freelance. I think he's a filmmaker, but he's more on the business side. But his name is Jamie Brindle. I think that's how it's pronounced. He's on like LinkedIn, Instagram, and he does an everyday post. It's like a loop of him having a conversation with himself, where he acts
Where
as
he
a
acts as
newbie
the client.
freelancer and an experienced freelancer, and he'll be like, I'm having trouble handling all these clients, and he's like, why not raise up your price? And won't I lose clients? Well, but the amount that you're getting within that like, month, is still the same, but you work with like a less hectic amount of clients, and then it goes on from there, and just like a looped conversation or something like um they're asking me to do something that's really out of my zone, and it's like, did you give them your scope of work document? And it's like, a scope of what? And then he explains to you all of this kind of thing,
Yeah.
and it is like, so that's the thing, because like I'm having trouble dealing with this amount of clients, and then it goes into a loop. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
loop conversation. So yeah, that's that guy. He's very helpful. Because of him, it's made my more like freelance experience a lot more smoother.
Mm.
Just because of just his tips alone, and he has like a handbook and everything like that, and all that stuff. And I think every artist who are planning who are experienced or not, new or pro, should like take a listen to that kind of advice, because that's going to
Yeah.
help you avoid so many
You might
red
learn.
flags.
You might learn something.
Yeah, not
I had another topic.
yeah.
When do you guys think like in the span of like a month, right? Let's say,
Yeah.
how many is too many projects, and when do you realize you spread yourself too thin?
Seen as in like what? I mean, for me, I think
Like if let's say I'm working on 5 projects in the same week, I've spread myself too thin. Like me personally,
mm,
like if I'm working on like that in like the course of a week, like when do you guys have like a personal preference on like the amount of projects you can take on in like the span of like a week or a month or whatever in
for me,
terms of how
it's
you.
like for the kind of work that I do, it's always like at least 2 or 3 at most. If it's like more than that, then it's like smaller pieces,
Like on,
maybe
on a
like a
span of
loop or something
a
like that.
span of a month,
Yeah.
2 or 3.
Yeah, yeah, span of a month. Because let's say if I'm doing like a looped animation, right, that's like 10 seconds. Maybe I could do that every couple or few days. But since I do like these long form projects, where I do commercial, this, that, it's like always 2 or 3.
Mm.
Sometimes it's just one for the
Okay.
most part. Because I'll take a break in that month where I'm just resting, and I'll do another project and all of that kind of stuff. So it really depends.
Yeah.
It
What
also
about
depends on me, my like, there are times where I'm just not working, and there are times where I'm just working like a bunch and
working?
stuff like that. And
Yeah.
always like it's always different.
What about
This is
you, Xapo? Sorry, just like
yeah.
I
at
mean,
least
yeah,
towards a number.
it completely depends on the difficulty, I would say, of the project. But let's say, like for example, a product commercial, I would not take more than 2 commercials because I'm still studying in college, and I
Mm.
have other stuff to
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah, other responsibilities and stuff. It's not
yeah,
the only
I
thing.
won't take more than two.
More than 2. All right. Yeah, no, I was just curious. For me personally, I mean, I'm not doing commissions for like the next 2 years technically, but I mean, outside of the one in March that's coming up, but
Mm.
I would say it's hard, especially for my field. So you guys do commercials, ads, and LED boards and things like that in that sort of realm,
Mhm. Yeah.
or motion graphics, I should say, as a
Yeah.
general term. But for me, because it's like VFX work and like more for short films and um, eventually for like movies and TV shows or whatever, right? A lot of my stuff takes a lot of the projects I get hired on are like 10-month long productions usually. So,
Yeah.
but even then, I might only have to do like 5 or 6 shots for the entire piece. So a lot of the time, I'll take like a month only to do that. Like I'll be like, I'll take a month, do the 5 or 6 shots, get them to you, and then I'll kind of like spend like maybe 1 month on one project, but I'm making enough to where from that one project that I think it justifies the that.
Mm.
But again, they're working with fewer artists. The budget's like kind of more lean towards paying more for the artist. I think it's different though for me because I'm working with a lot more YouTubers and
I think
less companies.
it's much lesser project for people who do like the VFX kind of stuff. Because like VFX and game dev compared to commercial, they're like much longer. They take years, months, years, or maybe even yeah, just like years. Just because
Yeah,
like for example, like Ian Hubert, right? One project, right? He split it into like
Guys,
several like different tutorials and stuff like that. And they that one project, which is Dynamo, took him a year.
yeah.
Whereas people who do commercial, they'll spend like 1 month, 2 months. If it's like a
We,
really
Ian
ridiculous
Hubert
one, it could be five. And
Ian Hubert's a little bit different. Let's be real. He worked on that by himself, basically. So it's kind of like, I mean, that's different. I think when you're working with like a studio of people, like the work gets spread around a lot. A lot of people are doing the same tasks too. So it's a lot less annoying. And a lot of times you're working on like shot specific, where I feel like as you guys have done, you work on a project as a whole. Like you'll do the entire commercial sometimes yourself, even though you have like the entire uh yeah, you'll usually do like a whole commercial yourself sometimes. Like I know obviously it's not always the case, but I know that is the case a lot. So the time spent is probably a little bit more um
Mhm.
or because it's such a more, I think motion graphics in my opinion are a little bit more creatively freeing because you get to kind of work in the abstract and more in the just pure visuals rather than like matching colors for like a muzzle flash being correct with like light hitting everywhere, and you don't have to worry
yeah,
about shit like that. It's just
yeah,
more
motion. Are we close to like the 2 hour mark or what's up?
we hit it, but there's a lot of hiccups, so I'm kind of like
Yeah,
giving it an extra either 10 or 20 minutes.
yeah, motion design. Motion design is basically like I heard from somewhere else or I don't know if it's a quote or from like another artist, but it was like motion design is basically graphic design animated. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
you're basically designing that kind of stuff. But like VFX, some depending on where you are in the field, you're working more on like just executing this. You know, there'll be people doing because those are like bigger group group projects basically. Whereas motion design is something that you can do solo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're more yeah, but you're more on the creative kind of side, you know. And
Mm.
the most likely popular people who like the ones who want to do who ask for motion design or the ones who do like the ones who make like brands and stuff like that and all that stuff. So that's more on the creative artistic side. VFX is more on like showing or telling a story or making an experience something like that. So it's a different art field kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even though they use the same tools and you know and you same hardware and everything like that, but the techniques and the ways of doing this kind of stuff is
Mhm. I mean, the
much
workflow is completely different, I guess.
yeah, it's completely different. It's completely like different. So yeah, Um,
Right.
I mean that's all I have.
Zappo, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
Uh, yeah, I mean, like if you talk about VFX and like proper production quality work, like they have all those technicalities like the lighting, the cinematography, and all, which is not like that essential in motion graphics. It is though, but still, like we can overlook that stuff with, I mean, yeah. So other kind of like abstract animations as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Noise. I feel like we might. Do you want to end now?
Yeah, because my iPad is my boss is calling me. I
Yeah,
might
your
need to
boss is
wrap
calling
up.
you. You guys gotta go. I
To
have to
go after.
stream.
Yeah, but we can wrap it up.
Anyways, I'll just. Do you want to do the outro, or do you want me to do the outro?
Yeah, I can do the outro. So yeah, that was episode three of the third party podcast. Um,
Let's go.
again, this is we have Josh, I'm Alex, and then we have the guest Zapo.
Yes.
So
We'll
yay
see. We'll see Zappo more often. Hopefully in the future. It
in the
probably won't be
future. Yeah,
for another couple of
Definitely.
months because I think we have like 3 more guests coming on
yeah,
in the
and
next.
yeah,
So
but
it's gonna be
yeah,
a while.
So
We do record these once a month, so that's kind of why it'll take a while to
they're
get
spread out
people.
like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's January 25th right now, so I think episode 2 just came out like today as we were recording. So, I mean episode 1,
one.
sorry. Episode 1 came out as we were recording. So, like that's
Yeah,
kind of the time frame we're working with here. Just so you know. Anyways, that was fun. I really enjoyed it. I
yeah,
wanna let's thank our patrons. I'm just gonna say myself.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh my
Right. So
god.
yeah, that's pretty much
Yeah, that's
everything,
it.
right?
okay, guys, thank you, Josh, for having me.
I appreciate
So
it.
yeah,
No problem,
thanks for
man.
coming.
Yes, thank you for coming.
All right.
I love talking to you guys. All right, I'm gonna go on stream. I'm just gonna like hit go live after I hit stop recording.
Yeah. Good luck streaming. I got like work to do. So
All right,
and then I gotta
all right.
like